You reached for the remote last night and turned subtitles on again, not because you could not see the screen, because the dialogue disappeared under the music and you sat there squinting at your soundbar as if you could shame it into performing better. Here is the question that nobody in the marketing material ever answers. Not which soundbar has the biggest number on the box, but which one actually makes voices clear at 9 in the evening, at a volume that does not wake the people upstairs. Because here is the thing that should make you angry. The highest wattage figure on any box in the soundbar aisle is almost always the weakest argument for buying it. That number is peak power, measured in a single channel for a fraction of a second, under conditions that have nothing to do with your living room. The company selling you that number is hoping you do not ask what it sounds like with all channels running at the same time, which is the only number that matters. In this video, I am going to name 5 brands you should walk away from in 2026, and 5 that I would actually spend my own money on. I will tell you the exact one I would buy. We go worst to best, traps first, payoffs last. If you have a soundbar right now that you are not sure about, drop one word in the comments below, the brand. I read every single one. And if this channel is new to you, that subscribe button gets you honest audio advice with no brand deals and no wasted money. That is the only promise we make here. Before the countdown, let me tell you why this decision matters more than it does with televisions. A television sits on a stand. You upgrade it when the picture bothers you enough. A soundbar gets wall-mounted, or it sits in a cabinet, or it is wired through the room in a way that makes replacing it feel like a renovation. People keep soundbars for 8, 10, 12 years. The connectivity that made sense in year 1 stops talking to the devices that arrive in year 5. Getting this wrong is not an inconvenience. It is something you resent every single night while you are sitting in your own living room. No brand paid for this video. The winner you are about to hear is not the most expensive thing on this list. Let us get into it. Trap number 5, Vizio. The case for Vizio is real, they price aggressively, the spec sheets look competitive, and in a store display, they frequently punch above their weight. The problem is not what Vizio soundbars sound like on day 1. It is what they do in year 2. Vizio's firmware update system pushes the same software update across multiple product lines simultaneously, because building and testing individual updates per model is expensive. What that means in practice is that a working soundbar can go to sleep one night and wake up broken because it received an update designed for a different product. This is not a fringe complaint. It is one of the most consistent patterns reported by Vizio owners across AVS Forum, Reddit, and slick deals going back several years. Users describe wireless subwoofers that stop pairing after updates, Smart CAST app connections that fail and do not recover, and ARC handshakes that simply stop working until you factory reset the unit. One owner put it clearly and without drama, Vizio repeatedly breaks their products with bad updates, and there is no way to roll back. The warranty is fine. The customer service is described as good. But good customer service for a product that breaks on its own is not the same as a product that does not break. Buy it if you genuinely need Atmos at the lowest possible entry price, and you accept that in 2 or 3 years the firmware lottery may catch you. Skip it if you intend to keep it for a decade and never want to think about it again, which is almost certainly the reason you are watching a video like this one. Quick gut check before we continue. Ask yourself one question. Am I buying a soundbar because I want better sound? Or because I want to stop managing a piece of electronics? If it is the second one, the brand you just heard is not for you. Keep going. Trap number 4, TCL. This one is going to surprise some people, because TCL televisions represent some of the strongest value in the display market right now. The soundbars are a different story. The Alto series is positioned as a natural companion to TCL TVs. And the Roku integration is genuinely convenient if you already live in that ecosystem. But RTI NGS scores the Alto 6 at 6.1 out of 10, and that number reflects what multiple reviewers describe consistently. Sound quality that is better than the TV's built-in speakers, but only just. For a standalone soundbar purchase, that bar is embarrassingly low. ARC handshake issues appear repeatedly in user reviews, which matters because ARC is the main reason you would connect a soundbar to a TCL-TV in the first place. The wireless subwoofer on the Alto 6 Plus has documented pairing and glitching issues. The sound is described charitably as basic. Think of it this way. The TCL Alto series is the auditory equivalent of a perfectly adequate reading lamp. It does the job. You would not buy a house because of the lamp. Buy it if you need something under $100 that is slightly better than what the television is already doing, and you own a TCL TV and want the remote integration. Skip it if you are paying more than that or expecting to stay with it for the next decade. Trap number 3, Nakamichi Dragon. Now here is where I need you to stay with me, because the Dragon looks incredible on paper. 11.4.6 channels, dual opposing 8-inch subwoofers. Numbers that are genuinely unlike anything else in the soundbar category. The problem is what those numbers cost you, and I do not just mean the price, which ranges from approximately $2,300 to nearly $4,000 depending on configuration. I mean the experience of owning one in a real room. When the Dragon launched, reviewers gave it 3 stars and described the sound as too harsh and too aggressive. Nakamichi responded with revised configurations, but the fundamental approach, enormous claimed power through a single bar format, runs into the same physics problem at any wattage. A soundbar cabinet that wide, that close to a wall, fighting room modes, and early reflections is doing things no driver configuration fully solves. Customer support gets described as mixed, with communication delays. Distribution is primarily through Amazon Marketplace rather than authorized retail. And a guide on the Nakamichi product line states plainly that typical users should skip the Dragon unless they have measured their room's modal resonances and own an SPL meter. If that sentence describes you, buy the Dragon and enjoy what it does. If that sentence sounds like a foreign language, the Dragon is selling you a number, not an experience. Skip it if you want to sit down, press play, and hear something great. That describes most of us. There is something I want you to hold on to, because it connects everything we are about to cover. The brands that consistently produce the best soundbar experience in 2026 share one quality: they are boring about connectivity. They do not advertise it. They just handle it. EARC works without a fight. The app pairs once and stays paired. The remote works without a ceremony. That quality, boring connectivity is worth more in long-term satisfaction than any wattage claim you have ever seen on a box. Subscribe now so you do not miss the video coming after this one. We are going to break down exactly what you should do the first week you own a new soundbar to make sure it is actually configured correctly. Because 90% of people skip 3 settings that make a significant difference to dialogue. The link will be in the description. Trap number 2, the LGS 95TR, but only at its original price. I want to be careful here, because this is a genuinely capable piece of equipment, and at the street prices it is reaching right now, it belongs in the good column. But the LGS 95TR launched at $1,500 and was frequently compared directly to the Samsung HWQ 990D. What Hi-Fi, one of the most respected publications in this category, gave it 3.5 stars and said it lacks finesse and lags behind the best in class, particularly for 3-dimensional sound. They describe tonal inconsistencies between the main bar and the surround speakers, and bass that occasionally becomes overbearing. It is also worth knowing that the WOW orchestra integration, which is the LG equivalent of Samsung's Q Symphony, where the soundbar and TV speakers work together, delivers its full benefit only with compatible LG TVs. Buy it now at the $800 street prices it is reaching on Amazon and similar, and it becomes a different conversation entirely. At that price, 9.1.5 channels, 17 drivers, HDMI 2.1 pass-through, Dolby True HD, and a full wireless surround package make it very competitive. Skip it at anywhere near launch price. At the heavily discounted current street prices, revisit it and compare it to what I am about to tell you. Now we are through the traps. Everything from here on is a genuine recommendation. These are brands and specific products where the engineering lines up, the connectivity works, and you will not be fighting your own audio system in 2 years. Pick number 3, Hisense AX5 140Q. $349 at Amazon as of mid-2026. That sentence should read wrong. For that price, Hisense includes a 5.1.4 surround system, the main soundbar, a wireless subwoofer with a 6.5-inch driver, and a pair of wireless rear satellite speakers that themselves include up-firing drivers for Dolby Atmos height channels. Real drivers, not virtual processing. Actual physical up-firing speakers in the rear units, which at this price point should not exist. RTINGS ranks this system second overall in its soundbar category as of July 2026, behind only the Samsung flagship that costs nearly 6 times as much. Think of the AX5 140Q as a Swiss Army knife that also somehow includes a proper chef's knife. You are getting what competitors charge $600 or $700 for, but built by a brand that applies the same strategy it uses in televisions. Conspicuous value with honest specs. The documented weaknesses are real, and you should know them. The subwoofer has a timing issue with rhythmically dense music bass drums, and fast bass lines in particular can sound slightly disconnected from the rest of the mix. There is no Wi-Fi, only Bluetooth for streaming music directly. The 4K pass-through is capped at 60 frames per second, not 120, which matters if you play a PS5 or Xbox Series X at high frame rates through the soundbar's HDMI input. For film nights, for TV series, for the family room where the main question is whether everyone can hear the dialogue, none of those limitations will bother you. Buy it if you want the most surround sound for the least money in 2026. Skip it if you stream music directly through the soundbar rather than through a television app, or if gaming at high frame rates is your primary use. Pick number 2, Sonos Arc Ultra, $999. The Sonos Arc Ultra is not a soundbar in the way the other products on this list are soundbars. It is a single bar with 9.1.4 channels delivered through 14 drivers, including a proprietary woofer technology that Sonos calls Sound Motion, which moves the driver further than a conventional driver in the same space and produces meaningfully more low end than the original Arc without a subwoofer. Think of the driver like a telescope that can extend beyond its tube. More travel, more air moved, more bass from a package that looks the same size from the outside. Tech Radar described the improvement over the original Arc as clear and meaningful, particularly for Christopher Nolan films where dialogue is infamously difficult to follow. The speech enhancement feature uses software to identify human voices and bring them forward in the mix, and multiple reviewers confirm it works without making the overall sound feel artificially processed. What Hi-Fi gave it their award for 2025. Empire Online called it a genuine step up in October 2024 and confirmed it was still the best one-box bar in March 2026. 2 things you must know before you buy. The Arc Ultra does not support DTS in any form. If you use a 4K Blu-ray player that outputs DTS HD master audio, the Arc Ultra cannot decode it and will fall back to a 2-channel signal. It also has no HDMI pass-through, which means your game console or streaming device must connect to the television directly, with the television sending audio back to the Arc Ultra through EARC. For this to work, you need a good HDMI cable in the correct port, which, if you have not watched our previous video on HDMI 2.1 mistakes, is the exact topic we covered there. The Arc Ultra is also a bar only. A Sonos Sub 4 adds $799. Wireless surrounds add further on top of that. If you are building the full Sonos ecosystem, the total cost climbs past what the Samsung flagship costs with everything included. Buy the Arc Ultra if you want the single most refined, easiest to use. Best looking bar available and you primarily watch streaming content. Skip it if you use physical Blu-ray discs regularly, if DTS is important to you, or if you want everything in one box at one price. And here is where I tell you the one I would actually buy. Number 1. Samsung HWQ990F. $1,999 at MSRP. $1,499 at street pricing, confirmed at Best Buy as of mid-2026. 11.1.4 channels. 23 drivers across the main bar, the subwoofer, and the 2 rear speaker units. All 3 arrive in the box. You open the carton, power everything on, and the sub and rears pair automatically. Reviewers consistently report setup to first sound in under 10 minutes. That sentence is not a coincidence. Samsung has iterated on this product through several generations, and the engineering reflects years of refinement. What Hi-Fi gave it 5 stars and their award. They said the bass in the Q990F generation received a serious improvement over the previous model, describing it as rich, controlled, and tonally varied. RTINGS ranks it their top-tested soundbar as of July 2026. It supports both Dolby Atmos and DTS:(X). It has HDMI 2.1 pass-through, which means your PS5 or Xbox connects through the soundbar at full 4K 120Hz bandwidth without sacrificing gaming performance. It has EARC, Wi-Fi, AirPlay 2, and Chromecast built in. Firmware updates have been consistent. If you own a Samsung television, Q Symphony activates and uses the TV's own speakers as additional channels in the sound field. This is not a gimmick, it is a genuinely measurable increase in the size and coherence of the front stage. The weaknesses exist, and you deserve to hear them. The design is starting to look dated compared to the cleaner lines of the Sonos Arc Ultra. The dot matrix display on the main bar is difficult to read across the room. And the subwoofer, while improved, still does not hit as low or as hard as a dedicated discrete sub from a separate subwoofer brand at the same price point. I am also going to say this plainly, Samsung charges for the name as well as the engineering, and in the mid-range of their lineup, that charge exceeds the value. The Q990F sits at the top of their lineup, and the engineering mostly justifies what they are asking. But the further down their product line you go, the faster that justification evaporates. If you are looking at a Samsung bar in the $400 to $700 range, the Hisense should be your first conversation. Buy the Q990F if you want one purchase, one setup, and never think about it again for the next decade. Buy it if you want Dolby Atmos and DTS:(X) from real drivers, with HDMI pass-through for gaming, in a system that has been independently tested and awarded. Skip it if the budget genuinely cannot reach it, in which case the Hisense AX5140Q is the honest answer. Skip it if you prioritize appearance and have a Sony TV, in which case the Bravia Theater ecosystem deserves a serious look. Here is the summary you can carry out of this video. Avoid Vizio unless you accept the firmware lottery. Avoid TCL unless the price is under $100 and you want TV integration. Avoid the Nakamichi Dragon unless you own measuring equipment and know what to do with it. Be cautious about the LG S95TR at its launch price, excellent at current street prices. Those are your 5 traps. Your 3 picks by budget, under $350, the Hisense AX5140Q is the strongest value in the entire category. Under $1,000, the Sonos Arc Ultra is the best single bar experience if you stream and do not use DTS physical media. At $1,500 or less at current discounted pricing, the Samsung HWQ990F is the one I would spend my own money on without hesitation. The 30-second check before you buy anything. Ask the retailer or find the spec sheet and ask these 4 questions. What is the continuous power output with all channels driven at the same time? Not peak, not single channel. Are the height channels real upfiring drivers or virtual processing by software? Does it have EARC, the enhanced version, not just standard ARC? And what is the actual size of the room you are putting it in? Because a 9-channel system in a 4-meter wide apartment does the same thing a garden hose does indoors. It hits every wall before it can develop any character. Those 4 questions filter 90% of the bad decisions. 3 tips you can use right now, even if your current soundbar is staying where it is. Turn off whatever your system calls night mode, dynamic range compression, or volume leveling when you are watching films at normal hours. That mode was built for apartment buildings at midnight. It flattens explosions into whispers and raises quiet dialogue until everything sits at the same gray volume. Turning it off restores the dynamic range that film sound designers actually mixed. Second, run the room correction calibration your soundbar shipped with, and then do not touch it again. That calibration, whether it is called AutoCal, AI Sound Pro, or something else, measures your room acoustics and adjusts the frequency response to compensate. Most people skip it because the setup menu is unfamiliar. It takes 3 minutes and it is the single largest free improvement available to any soundbar in any room. Third, check that you are in the EARC port, not the regular HDMI port. This goes back to our previous video on HDMI cable mistakes. The port has to be the labeled EARC port, not the port that was convenient, and the cable has to be certified for the bandwidth it claims. One wrong port means compressed audio for years while you assume the soundbar is the problem. The question at the start of this video was not which soundbar has the biggest number on the box. It was which one makes your actual room sound like you can hear the voices, without waking the house, without fighting the thing, without replacing it in 4 years. The answer is usually not the most expensive option on the shelf, and it is almost never the biggest wattage claim on the packaging. If you have been sitting on a decision, post your room size in feet and the model you are considering. I will give you an honest answer. No caveats, no affiliate angle, just the call. That comment is the most useful thing you can leave today. Like this video if it saved you from a purchase you would have regretted. Because that like puts it in front of the next person standing in that same aisle. And the next video is going live soon. The first week setup checklist that most soundbar owners skip entirely the 3 settings that make the difference between a soundbar you resent and one you forget is even there, because it just works.